I bought a high-rise condo across from the station, but suddenly he brought up this story. Why now? It was surprising because he had purchased the condo behind my back while I was staying at my parents' house. It's an amazing place with a stunning view and spotless rooms, but I was in shock. He moved out of our apartment and into this luxurious condo without any explanation or apology, saying he used money from selling our old place. He told me, "I'm going to live with mom and dad in this great house, so I don't need a parasite like you." It was outrageous. He decided to live with his parents without consulting me and kicked me out. I was speechless, not knowing where to begin. My name is Sarah. I'm a 32-year-old housewife, 8 months pregnant, eagerly counting down the days until I meet my baby. My husband, Richard, is 35 and works for a major company. We'd been married for 3 years, and I was thrilled to finally be pregnant after struggling to conceive. However, I was also terrified of childbirth. To ease my anxiety, I spent time at my in-laws' home. "Sarah, you're about to have a baby soon, huh? What's it like to become a mother?" Jane, Richard's brother's wife, asked me. Jane is the reason I visit my in-laws. She's a housewife and lives with them, and I've grown close to her. My mother-in-law had trouble with her legs 2 years ago, and Jane, who has caregiving experience, agreed to help. She's quite capable but is always there to assist. Her kindness impressed me, and as a more experienced mother, she helped ease my worries about childbirth. Now, with only a month left until my due date, I plan to stay at my parents' house to prepare for the birth. Although my belly felt heavy, I enjoyed shopping for the baby and imagining our new life. Spending time at my parents' home felt refreshing after a long while. 2 days past my due date, contractions started, and I tried reaching Richard, but he didn't answer. I was concerned he might be busy or in trouble. As my labor pains intensified, I focused solely on giving birth. Eventually, I welcomed a beautiful baby girl into the world. I cradled my beautiful baby girl for the first time, overwhelmed with happiness. Richard was supposed to be there for the birth, but he didn't show up at the hospital. I was too exhausted from labor to confront him directly, so I simply texted him to let him know I had given birth and then fell asleep. When I woke up, I heard someone calling my name. "Are you still asleep?" Richard's voice was grating. I blinked open my eyes to find him standing by my bed, with his parents in tow. He greeted me cheerfully. "My parents came. You have to appreciate them." I had specifically asked not to have visitors immediately after giving birth, so I was taken aback that he had brought his parents along without asking me. Irritated, I asked, "Why didn't you come yesterday?" He responded casually, "I promised to go eat sushi with my parents. I thought I'd come after that, but I drank a lot and figured it would be better not to come and be a trouble." I couldn't believe his priorities. While he enjoyed sushi and drinks, I was left to struggle through childbirth alone. Ignoring my irritation, he asked, "Where's our baby?" "She's in the nursery, a healthy baby girl," I replied. My mother-in-law's face tightened at the news. "What a girl," she muttered. "Such a useless wife." I was stunned by her comment. My father-in-law chimed in. Both Jane and Sarah blew it. "You're pathetic." I was hurt and furious that, instead of receiving gratitude for enduring childbirth, I was insulted. Richard, too, seemed disappointed. "Oh, damn it. I knew it was a girl, but I hoped for a boy." I got my hopes up. I didn't understand his disappointment. He explained that his parents had high hopes for a boy since our first child was a girl, but that didn't matter to me. To me, my baby was perfect, no matter her gender. Richard's reaction left me feeling alone and unsupported, as he seemed more aligned with his parents' expectations than with celebrating our new arrival. I was fuming with anger, but exhaustion and soreness from childbirth made it hard to muster the energy to confront Richard. Thankfully, a nurse who had overheard our conversation through the wall intervened and asked his parents to leave the room. She noticed my distress and offered me comfort as I cried. Since then, Richard hadn't visited me in the hospital. On the day of my discharge, I arranged for my parents to pick us up and take us to their home. I didn't want to return to our place in such a state. I couldn't understand why Richard had become so cold-hearted. He seemed so much more caring when we first married. I wondered if his change in demeanor was linked to his work issues from 2 years ago. He had made a significant mistake that caused a huge loss for his company. Though his colleagues covered for him, he never faced any real consequences. Still, the error derailed his career, and he had struggled to get back on track. His frustration and stress may have contributed to his emotional distance. Additionally, one of his colleagues, who had joined the company later, was now his boss. Richard had been better at his job initially, but their roles reversed due to his earlier mistake. The reversal must have been hard for him to accept, adding to his stress and affecting his behavior at home. I felt a mix of dissatisfaction and hope that having our baby would spark some change in him, but he didn't seem to be making any effort. I worried about our family's future and felt overwhelmed by the uncertainty. Then Richard called me unexpectedly. "Hey, when are you coming back? You've been gone for almost a month since the baby was born." I wasn't ready to go back yet. "Sorry, I'll be home soon. I need to get things in order for our daughter and start fresh." Richard's response was shocking. "You don't need to bring all that stuff back. I actually just wanted to discuss something with you. Maybe I should have told you this in person rather than over the phone." I was stunned and confused by his abruptness. What did he mean? I was completely baffled by what Richard was saying. Then he dropped an even more shocking revelation. "I bought a high-rise condo across from the station." I was stunned. "Wait, what do you mean?" I asked, trying to make sense of his sudden announcement. Why was he bringing this up now? He described the condo's stunning view and immaculate rooms, but I was confused. He had moved out of our apartment and into this luxury condo without telling me while I was staying at my parents' house. I was flabbergasted. Where did the money come from? You shouldn't be able to afford that on your salary. He made no apologies and simply said, "I used the money from selling our house." I needed clearer explanations, not just bits of information. "You sold our house. Where are your parents living now?" He seemed oddly pleased as he replied, "Daddy and Mommy are living with me in the condo now. I'm moving in with them so I don't need a parasite like you. Get out." I was left speechless, unsure how to react. Richard had decided to live with his parents without consulting me and had kicked me out. He called his parents Daddy and Mommy with a new sense of familiarity and announced they were living together in the condo. He practically asked for a divorce. As I stood there, dumbfounded, he continued, "You're so arrogant for a housewife. You're useless without my salary. You've got a dead weight lately, especially with your morning sickness." I tried to explain that I had been busy right up until giving birth, but he wouldn't listen. He added, "And our baby isn't a boy. My parents think it's better to be with a younger woman who might give them a boy. They also don't want to live with you and my brother anymore." He told me he had put my things in a storage room and instructed me to pick them up. "As for the divorce, I've already sent you the papers. Make sure to file them." And with that, he hung up on me. I was stunned and paralyzed by the shock. How had I ended up married to someone so callous? I felt like I had made a terrible mistake, but there was no point in dwelling on it now. My priority was my daughter. I had to pull myself together for her sake. After taking some time to process everything, I resolved to sever all ties with Richard and begin a new chapter in my life. I was determined not to let him control me any longer. If a divorce was what it took, then so be it. I would show him who would truly regret this decision. My parents were furious when I told them about the situation. They immediately agreed to support me through the divorce. As soon as I received the divorce papers from Richard, I signed and filed them. About 2 weeks later, Richard unexpectedly showed up at my parents' house. "Hey, what's going on?" he demanded. "Why has so much money been withdrawn from my bank account?" He slammed his bank statements onto the table, glaring at me. I remained calm and replied, "Aren't you familiar with the term division of property?" "What's that supposed to mean?" he retorted, baffled. "That's not what this is." "The account in question is mine," I said firmly. "I'm not giving you a cent. I had previously deposited some money into your account, but it was shared property. I'm taking back what's rightfully mine." He was infuriated. "Why should I give you my money? You've forgotten that your salary went down because of your mistake at work. I started a side job at home. I'm sure you didn't earn as much as I did." "Actually, I earned as much as you did," I countered. "And you're the one who wanted the divorce. This conversation is over." Richard was incredulous. "You've got to be kidding me. I don't believe this." My father, who had been silent until then, finally spoke up. "How about we take this to court?" "How dare you insult my daughter?" I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for my daughter, who had endured so much because of Richard. "Get out of here, you bastard," I shouted. My father, a policeman, intimidated by Richard's menacing demeanor, made him flee from our house. That was the final end to our relationship, and asset division issues were resolved. Since then, I've been focusing on raising my daughter at my parents' house. Adjusting to parenting has been a challenge, but she is an absolute joy. My life has taken on a new, happier rhythm with my adorable baby girl. A few months later, I started receiving persistent calls from an unknown number. Though I had ignored them initially, I decided to answer, thinking it might be my boss or colleagues. "Hello," I answered. "Hello, Sarah." That was Richard. "What you want?" I asked sharply. "How are you doing?" he asked. "I don't really want to discuss that." "Can I hang up now?" "Wait, can you come back? I'm having trouble paying the mortgage on the condo. I might get kicked out." I wasn't surprised. "You're short on cash, aren't you?" "Yeah, I've used up all my savings. Daddy hurt his back and had to quit his job. Mommy brags about her life, but now she's always sick. I'm at my wit's end." I wasn't shocked by his predicament. With his salary, he likely couldn't manage the condo's mortgage. He must have relied on his savings, his father's salary, and a down payment. Now that his father couldn't work and his mother spent extravagantly, he was struggling to cover their expenses. It was no wonder he was in trouble. When I checked my bank balance, it was at zero. I was informed that if I didn't pay by next week, I would be evicted. "Please come back, Sarah. We used to care about each other." I laughed, finding his pleas almost amusing. "Give me a break. You just want to exploit me whenever you need something. You expect me to support you and act as your housekeeper." Richard fell silent, and I remembered how he had called me a parasite. Wouldn't I just be in the way? I retorted, recalling the hurtful words he had used before. I had something weighing on my mind. "What about Jane and your brother?" "They've already moved out and are living together now," he said. "He had a falling out with our parents when my brother told Dad to live more appropriately." My brother lost his temper and said, "I don't want to be told what to do by someone who's dependent on a woman who couldn't even give him a son." Usually calm, my brother blew up. He left the house saying, "I'll cut you off if you keep making fun of my wife." "I see. It sounds like he's a decent person. It's good to know he cares about Jane," I responded. "Please come back, Sarah." "Are you serious? Who would ever return to you? I'm fully occupied with taking care of my daughter. I can't deal with jerks like you." "By the way, calling your parents daddy and mommy at your age is pathetic," I added. "Don't say stuff like that. You can take our daughter here if you want. Weren't you supposed to live with our daughter when you first asked me?" "Ah, well, oh, I see. You don't even remember. You had your daughter, didn't you? I would never take her to a father like you. Don't ever call me again. If you show up again, I'll call the police and my dad will make sure you get arrested." He made a pathetic sound, clearly recalling my dad's intimidating presence. I hung up and blocked him. Later, he tried calling me from a new number, but I had changed mine too. A bit later, Jane contacted me. "I'm sorry for not reaching out sooner. We moved to the countryside, and it took us a while to get internet access set up." Jane and her family had decided to live in a peaceful, rural setting. I visited their new home and found it to be a charming town surrounded by nature. I imagined how happy and well-adjusted my child would be growing up in such an environment. Jane's husband filled me in on my ex. He and his family were eventually evicted from their high-rise condo and burdened with debt. He was struggling to support his parents and barely making ends meet. In contrast, I was thriving. I worked from home and lived comfortably at my parents' house. Today, I was going to relax at Jane's place for a few days before returning to spend more time with my daughter. Once my daughter was a bit older, I hoped we could move to the area and live near Jane. With that bright future in mind, I happily enjoyed my time. Buying a high-rise condo while your wife is pregnant is insane. Maybe if you're rich, but it's ridiculous on a normal income, I thought. I was relieved to have left such an unlikable husband behind. I wished Jane and her family all the best, hoping they would continue to live harmoniously together. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.
I looked at the plate in front of me and had a strange feeling. Is it moving? I couldn't believe my eyes. I remembered the earlier exchange with Sarah at the table. "I made this cheesecake for you. Happy birthday." With that, she placed a cheesecake and a coffee in front of each of us. Sarah looked very satisfied, as if this was a masterpiece she was proud of. Indeed, the presentation was beautiful. Even on our regular plates, it had a special elegance, like a completely different dessert. There was nothing odd about it, just a perfectly homemade treat. It's not possible for the cheesecake to move on its own. Maybe I've had too much champagne. But still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I saw it move. It made me uncomfortable. Jack hadn't drunk anything, as he's a teetotaler, but I couldn't resist. I switched my plate with his. Little did I know that this casual act would lead to disaster. My name is Emma Hunter, 33 years old. I work in the apparel industry and recently got married. My job often requires weekend shifts and late nights, so my husband Jack and I don't always have time off together. Despite this, Jack has been understanding. After we got married, I continued working at the same job. Things seem to be going smoothly, but I have a secret problem. I don't get along with my sister-in-law. Jack has a sister, Sarah, who is 4 years younger. Our relationship has been tense ever since our initial meeting before the wedding. I remember the tension vividly, and just thinking about it gives me a headache. We met at the best restaurant in the city for the pre-wedding family introduction. When I arrived in my dressed-up outfit, Jack's mother Amanda and Sarah greeted me with the warmest smiles. "Wow, you're so beautiful and stylish. The wedding is going to be amazing." "Yes, Jack, you've got yourself a real catch." "I've always wanted a sister like you. Jack, you've done well." They showered me with compliments and seemed genuinely pleased. During dinner, the conversation naturally turned to our work. "I work as a pastry chef." "Wow, that's an impressive job. I'd love to visit your shop sometime." "Sure, come anytime. I've loved baking since I was a kid and made it my career." Her straightforward passion for her work impressed me, and I thought I could get along with this family. "When you marry my brother, I hope we can be as close as real sisters." "Of course, I'd love that. Please feel free to ask me anything." After dinner, I went to the restroom, where I happened to meet Sarah. She was there to touch up her makeup. We ended up standing side by side in front of the large mirror. I pulled out my special lipstick, saved just for this occasion. "Oh, that's an interesting lipstick." Without waiting for my response, she grabbed it from my hand. "Ugh, what is this? So old-fashioned. I can't believe you're older than my brother. How sad that he had to marry someone so much older. How did you even catch him? Did you lure him in with money or something?" I was shocked by her rudeness. Her earlier friendliness seemed completely fake. I'm only 1 year older than Jack. That's not really what I would call old. "Well, older is older. You can't change that." Isn't it rude to bring up age like that? Sarah ignored me and continued her makeup, applying it with a stubborn intensity despite already having plenty on. "No wonder your taste in lipstick is so outdated. You work in fashion, and that's the best you can do?" That lipstick was a birthday gift from Jack last year, the one I treasure most. I decided to wear it today for this special occasion. Being insulted over something so dear to me made me furious. "If you don't like it, give it back. It's important to me." Sarah smirked, twisted the cap off the lipstick, and smeared it all over the sink like one would stub out a cigarette. I was speechless. It was as if time slowed down as I watched her ruin my precious lipstick. "Oops, guess you'll need a new one now. Make sure to get something that's not so old-fashioned next time." She said this with a smile before heading back to the table, leaving me stunned. I couldn't say a word when I returned to the table, still in shock. "Emma, are you all right? You don't look well." I brushed off her concern as best I could. "Emma, please don't bring the mood down. Everyone here is enjoying." At that point, I was truly at a loss for words. I couldn't even explain what had just happened in the restroom. When I finally asked Jack about Sarah's personality, I tried to be subtle. "Do you think Sarah and I will get along? What did you think of the introduction?" "I thought it went well. She complimented you a lot, didn't she? You didn't get a bad impression of her, did you?" Jack is so gentle and kind-hearted. He had no idea what had really happened. Should I tell him about the lipstick incident? I hesitated to tell Jack about what had happened. Sarah's behavior was so unbelievable that I couldn't even process it myself. Maybe she was just in a bad mood that day. I decided not to mention it to Jack for now. After all, I didn't want to start off my relationship with the in-laws on bad terms. We got married and moved into a new place shortly after. Luckily, I managed to get a rare weekend off so Jack and I could finally spend some time together. We had lots of things we wanted to do as a couple now that we had time. As we sat at our new dining table, discussing where we would go on our next day off, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and found Sarah standing there. "Congratulations on your marriage. Mind if I come in for a while?" Her unannounced visit caught me by surprise, but since we had no other plans, we invited her in. "Sarah, it's good to see you." Watching Jack and Sarah catch up, I couldn't help but think about her behavior at the family meeting. Today, however, she seemed perfectly polite, sitting across from Jack at the dining table, which she occupied as if it were her own. I braced myself, but there were no signs of her previous hostility. She was acting like the cute little sister she pretended to be in front of Jack. "Oh my God, you have a hamster? It's so cute." I've had a hamster since I was single. Because they're nocturnal, it was easy for me to take care of them, even with my late work hours. "Emma has been taking care of it since before we got married. Isn't it cute? It must be happy to see you, Sarah. It hardly ever comes out during the day." Jack looked back and forth between the hamster and Sarah with a warm smile. He got up to go to the bathroom, leaving me alone with Sarah. As soon as Jack was out of sight, Sarah's expression changed. So you've had this hamster for a while. Kind of pathetic. Like what you are, a lonely woman, no friends, huh? Seems about right for someone as lame as you." She peered into the hamster's cage without any hesitation, inspecting the food and supplies like it was some kind of novelty. "Ugh, look at all this junk. What do you feed this thing?" Hamsters are omnivores. In the wild, they eat insects and nuts. Pretty much anything they can find. "So you feed it this tiny little stuff? What a weird hobby. I can't believe Jack married someone who's into this kind of thing." Sarah then stuck her finger into the cage, dangerously close to the hamster. "Don't do that. It'll bite you." "Oh, come on. It's not going to bite me. You're being so dramatic, like some old lady." Ignoring my warning, Sarah made playful movements toward the hamster. I knew I had to stop her, but before I could act, the hamster bit her finger. "Ouch! What the hell?" Sarah screamed and shook her hand wildly, sending the hamster tumbling back into its cage. I was just as confused as she was by the chaos. Eventually, the hamster retreated, clearly as shaken as we were. "Stupid hamster! Look, it bit me. You better make this right." "It's just an animal, and besides, you were the one who provoked it." I know from experience that hamster bites hurt a lot, so I understood her frustration. Sarah glared at me, massaging her injured finger while grumbling under her breath. "Ugh, this is your fault. Just because you got lucky and married Jack doesn't mean you can act all high and mighty." "That's not what I meant at all." At that moment, Jack returned from the bathroom, and Sarah immediately ran to show him her finger. "Jack, look, it bit me." "Oh, I used to get bitten by it a lot too. Don't worry, you'll be fine." "But it really hurt." Jack was oblivious to the tension between us and just smiled. As time passed, Sarah started glancing at the clock. I wondered if she had somewhere else to be, but then the doorbell rang again. Today seemed to be full of visitors. Who could it be this time? I opened the door to find a delivery man holding a huge package. "Did we order something? That's a pretty big box." The delivery man checked the label, confirming it was addressed to us. "It's for me. I ordered it as a wedding gift for you two." Jack and I were both taken aback. The delivery man efficiently brought the large box into our living room. "Sarah, this is a bit too much. You didn't need to get us something so big." "No, it's perfect. I ordered a new dining table. Every family needs a central piece of furniture like this." "But we already have a dining table, and we picked it out together." I pointed to the sturdy wooden table that Jack and I had chosen, showing it to her. "Oh, this plain thing? Come on, the one I got is way better. You should get rid of that old thing." Despite my protests, Sarah ignored me and started unpacking the new table parts. "Come on, hand me the tools. I'll put it together for you." Since Sarah refused to back down, I reluctantly pushed our existing table aside and let her assemble the new one. The new table was much too casual for our home and completely clashed with the rest of the room. Sarah didn't seem to notice or care, smiling proudly as she admired her work. There, much better. From now on, this is where we'll gather for family time. I'll check on it next time I visit, so don't even think about getting rid of it. The new table took up way too much space, making the room feel cramped and overwhelming. I felt like our home had been invaded. But before I could say anything, Sarah kept going. Oh, and make sure to have some nice tea ready for me next time. If you can't even serve your guests properly, what kind of hostess are you? You're already failing as a wife, not being able to sync your schedule with the rest of the world. After that, Sarah finally left. Jack and I decided to send our original table to my parents' house, even though it was one of our first purchases as a couple. It was such a stressful day, and I was completely exhausted by the end of it. Since then, Sarah has been calling Jack frequently, even without any real reason. One evening, as we were relaxing, Sarah called again. Oh, Sarah, just in time. I wanted to ask you something. Tomorrow, Emma and I are going to a theme park. You love that place, don't you? What kind of souvenir should we get for you? Jack's expression brightened as he listened to her response. Sarah wants to come with us tomorrow. You didn't say no? How could I say no to my cute little sister? But tomorrow was supposed to be a day for just the two of us. I was a little annoyed that Jack couldn't refuse, but I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. So I reluctantly agreed to let Sarah come along. The next day, Sarah was waiting for us at the entrance to the theme park. As soon as we entered, Sarah immediately asked me to get something for her. Emma, could you go buy us some drinks? I'd like a large one, and don't forget some snacks, too. The line at the concession stand was long, and even after I came back, Sarah continued giving me tasks. It was as if she wanted to get me away from Jack so they could be alone together. Hey, I wonder if that ride is crowded right now. It's the most popular one, so it probably is. Emma, could you go check for us? Me? She wanted me to walk all the way to the opposite side of the park just to check the line for her. It was obvious she was trying to send me away to be alone with Jack. Instead of playing along, I decided to stay close to Jack. I wasn't going to let her have him all to herself. Jack, aren't you getting a bit tired? How about we take a break? Yeah, that sounds good. I've had enough rides. Let's just relax for a while. The more time passed, the more it felt like I was competing with Sarah for Jack's attention. It was exhausting, so I decided to change my strategy. I'm going to check out the souvenir shop. You two go ahead and enjoy yourselves. What? You're just going to leave us? That's so cold. You're ruining the fun. I was fed up with her selfish and childish behavior. As long as you two are having fun, that's fine. I need to pick up some souvenirs for my coworkers. Oh, in that case, grab some cute keychains for us too. Make sure to get enough for everyone. I couldn't believe her audacity. I was paying for everything, while Sarah didn't spend a dime. Jack and I didn't even care about souvenirs, but Sarah acted as if it was no big deal. I reluctantly bought what she asked for and returned with the goods. Yes, this is what I wanted. Doesn't it look great on me? Honestly, I thought only teenagers would wear something like that, but Sarah beamed as if she was still in her teens. Cute things look good on me, don't they? Of course they do. She then insisted that Jack and I wear matching items and forced us into a photo. Smile, let's take a picture together. The picture was heavily filtered to the point that it didn't even look like us. But Emma, you look a little out of place in this photo. The keychain doesn't suit you at all. You're too old to pull it off. I knew this was coming. She just wanted to remind me that I'm older than Jack. Yeah, maybe something like this is more appropriate for teenagers. It's a bit silly for an adult like me. Oh, don't be so bitter just because it doesn't suit you. It looks amazing on me. She dramatically touched her keychain, showing it off like a prize. Well, honestly, it's a bit childish. I think we're all a bit too old for this. What? How could you say that? Just because you married someone older doesn't mean you have to act old, too. I was reaching my limit. Thankfully, the park was closing, so the day finally came to an end. What should have been a special day for Jack and me turned into an exhausting ordeal. I felt drained, and I didn't even have anyone to vent my frustrations to. Clearly, Sarah and I weren't meant to get along. The next month, I came home from work to find an unfamiliar pair of shoes at the door. Something about them seemed familiar, though. Dreading what I might find, I peeked into the living room. There I saw decorations reading, "Happy Birthday 34. Colorful balloons and ribbons were swaying in the air. Oh, that's right. Today's my birthday. From the kitchen, Sarah appeared. "What are you doing here?" "What do you mean? I'm family. I can come anytime. Today's your 34th birthday, right? You're not really at the age to be celebrating, but I came to celebrate for you anyway." She emphasized my age unnecessarily, but it seems she genuinely came to celebrate. "Oh, I see. Well, thanks for coming to celebrate." "You're lucky I'm even doing this for you. People your age don't really get birthdays anymore. This is a big favor." She acted like coming over was some grand gesture. I was tired from work, and her attitude was wearing on me. "It would have been nice if you had told me in advance. I could have prepared something for you." "Oh, don't be so distant. I'm already using the kitchen, so stay out of the way, okay?" Jack emerged from the bedroom, smiling as always.
"You've got a sweet little sister now, Emma. Isn't it great to have more family?"
I forced a smile. Of course, Jack saw Sarah as his beloved sister. I didn't want to ruin that for him. But it was hard to feel comfortable with Sarah taking over my kitchen without even asking.
"Sarah's been prepping for this all day, just for you. She even ordered takeout to time it perfectly for when you got home."
The doorbell rang as Jack spoke, and soon our dining table was filled with a lavish takeout spread. It seemed like they genuinely wanted to celebrate my birthday. We opened champagne and nibbled on the fancy appetizers, and I started to relax. Despite Sarah's unusual behavior, it was nice to be celebrated like this as an adult. Sarah even seemed to enjoy the champagne, pouring drinks for me several times. For once, she wasn't being snarky or rude. I actually felt at ease for the first time in her company. Then, after the meal, Sarah stood up. "Time for the cake. I made it myself, so I hope you're excited. It's a professional-grade cake just for you. Don't peek while I go get it from the kitchen." We finally had a moment alone, and Jack reached under the table to hold my hand.
"I'm really looking forward to this. Believe it or not, I've never had Sarah's cake before. She rarely bakes for the family, so I guess she's putting in the extra effort since it's your birthday."
Hearing that made me even more eager to try it. It had been a while since I had eaten cake, and I was excited to taste something made by a professional. Sarah returned carrying a tray. "Here it is. Cheesecake. Happy birthday, Emma." With that, Sarah placed a cheesecake and a cup of coffee in front of each of us. She looked incredibly pleased with herself, clearly confident in her creation. The cake was beautifully presented, even though it was served on her usual plates. It had an elegance that made it feel like something special.
"Wow, this looks amazing. I can't wait to try it."
"Right? I'm glad you think so."
"Could I get some sugar for my coffee? Where is it?"
As Sarah and Jack went to the kitchen to grab the sugar, I found myself staring at the cheesecake in front of me. That strange feeling came over me again. Wait, is it moving? I blinked to try to clear my vision. There's no way a cheesecake could move. Maybe the champagne was affecting me more than I realized. Still, I couldn't shake the uneasiness, so I quietly switched my plate with Jack's. When they returned with the sugar, the atmosphere seemed to lighten. We all sat down to enjoy the cake. I took a tentative bite, and it was delicious. The soft cream melted in my mouth. "This is amazing. Thank you, Sarah. It's just like a professional dessert."
"Yeah, this is really good. Thanks, Sarah."
Sarah, however, didn't seem fully satisfied despite her compliments. She hadn't even touched her own cake. Her eyes, slightly red from the alcohol, stared intently at me. "What's wrong? It's perfect, really." Just as I was about to take another bite, Jack suddenly screamed.
"Whoa, what the hell is that?"
He jumped up, knocking his plate off the table and flipping over the entire dining table. The beautifully arranged cheesecake and coffee scattered across the floor. Plates and cups shattered, and the dining table was now broken. Its legs snapped. "Jack,
What's going on? I was in a panic, but Sarah looked even more terrified. Her face had turned pale. What? What's happening? What is that thing? I looked down at the cheesecake that had fallen from Jack's plate. To my horror, something resembling a worm was wriggling out of the broken dessert. Sarah, what did you put in this cake? I don't know. There must be some mistake. Jack pointed to the moving cheesecake, clearly disgusted. Don't give me that. It's right there, moving. Did you seriously put worms in our food? I couldn't help but scream, too. My mind raced as I tried to piece together what had happened. Was Sarah pretending to be nice today just to pull this sick prank? I thought back to the time she'd visited and inspected my hamster's cage. Had she come up with the idea then? Hamsters are omnivores, and one of their favorite snacks is mealworms, which look exactly like the creature crawling out of the cheesecake. Sarah had seen the mealworms when she visited before. Could she have planted one in the cake? Sarah, when you came over last time, you were snooping around the hamster's cage, weren't you? Is this when you came up with this disgusting idea? Sarah's face went pale, and she shook her head frantically. No, I didn't do that. I would never. Then why was a cheesecake with a worm on Jack's plate when it was originally plated in front of me? Sarah's expression dropped, and I could tell the realization was hitting her. You were trying to feed me a worm-infested cake, weren't you? I switched my plate with Jack's because I thought something was off, and now look at what happened. Sarah, how could you do something so horrible? Even Jack, usually gentle and understanding, was furious. You love baking, right? You even made it your career. How could someone who claims to love baking do something this cruel? Sarah, with tears in her eyes, tried to defend herself. No, it wasn't me. This has to be a mistake. Maybe Emma did it. Maybe she planted the worm while I was in the kitchen. Her desperate accusation was too ridiculous to believe. Why on earth would I do something like that? Besides, Jack and I were holding hands under the table the whole time you were finishing the cake. That's right. Emma had no chance to tamper with it. Stop blaming her. Sarah's eyes darted back and forth, searching for a way out of the situation. And by the way, I was recording the whole time because I thought it would be a nice birthday memory. If we check the footage, I'm sure we'll see the worm moving in your cheesecake. You're the only one who could have done it. No, it was supposed to be a surprise. Just a funny little prank. I didn't mean for it to go this far. No. Sarah was sobbing now, but her words only made things worse. A prank? A surprise? Do you realize how terrifying this is? You've scarred Jack for life. Food is meant to be enjoyed, not used to frighten people. You've gone too far, Sarah. Jack, still visibly shaken, spoke up. I can't believe you would do this, Sarah. Emma is my wife. I won't forgive anyone, even my own sister, for pulling something like this on her. Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Jack's mother, coming to bring me a birthday gift. Despite the chaos, we had no choice but to let her in. Oh my goodness, what happened here? She stared at the wrecked dining table, the shattered dishes, and the horrifying scene of worms crawling out of the cheesecake on the floor. Emma, what is going on? I explained everything to her, showing her the video evidence as well. As she watched, her expression darkened. Sarah, I can't believe you would do something like this, but I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. After all, you did something similar when you were a child, didn't you? What do you mean? When Sarah was in elementary school, she once put a frog in someone's cake as a joke. The girl she did it to never spoke to her again, and I had to apologize to the girl's parents. I thought she had outgrown such behavior, but it seems she hasn't changed at all. I was stunned. Wait, you've done something like this before? It was awful back then, too. I really thought she had learned her lesson, but clearly I was wrong. This is beyond childish pranks. This is malicious, Sarah. Hearing her mother's stern words, Sarah started crying harder. Mom, why are you siding with them? I didn't mean to hurt anyone. Sarah, I can't defend you anymore. What you did was cruel, and I can't ignore that. Sarah, you need to apologize. You've hurt everyone here. But Enough, Sarah. This is your fault, and you need to take responsibility for it. Sarah looked completely defeated,
but she still couldn't bring herself to apologize. I didn't think it would turn out like this. Sarah, this isn't the first time you've done something like this. You need to understand that your actions have consequences. I remember when you slipped a frog into that girl's cake all those years ago. This is the same thing, and it's unacceptable. I never imagined you could go this far, especially to my wife. Emma is my family now, and what you did to her, it's unforgivable. Sarah's tears kept flowing, but the realization had finally hit her. I didn't mean to. I was just jealous. Ever since Emma came into the picture, you spent less time with me, Jack. There it was, the confession I'd suspected all along. I thought if I made her look bad, maybe things would go back to how they were before. So that's what this has been about, jealousy. Sarah, that's no excuse for what you've done. Jack's face turned pale as he processed Sarah's words. Sarah, that's ridiculous. Of course things changed when I got married, but that doesn't mean I love you any less as my sister. But this isn't how you handle it. You've crossed the line. Sarah looked devastated, but Jack's words seemed to sink in. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. It was the first time I had ever heard Sarah apologize, but it felt empty, like she was saying it just to avoid more consequences. Sarah, I think it's time for you to leave. I can't have you in my house after what you've done, especially not after all the hurt you've caused. Sarah looked at her mother, her eyes wide with disbelief. Mom, you're kicking me out? I'm not kicking you out, Sarah, but I think you need to take some time to reflect on your actions. You've caused a lot of pain, and you need to understand that. Sarah hesitated, then stood up shakily, looking like she didn't know what to do. I'm sorry. I'll go. She slowly made her way to the door, tears still streaming down her face, but nobody moved to stop her. Jack's mother followed Sarah to the door, as if to make sure she actually left. Sarah, I love you, but you need to change. Please take this time to think about how you've hurt the people around you. Sarah gave one last look back at us, her face full of regret, and then left. As the door clicked shut, the room was filled with an awkward silence. Emma, I'm so sorry. I didn't raise Sarah to behave this way, and I deeply regret that this happened in your home. I could see that Jack's mother was genuinely upset by what had transpired. It's okay, really. I'm just relieved that it's over. Mom, don't blame yourself. Sarah made her own choices, and she's the one who needs to take responsibility. Jack still looked shaken by the events, but he was trying to stay calm. We spent the rest of the night cleaning up the mess from the overturned table and broken plates. It was a long, exhausting night, but at least it was finally over. The next day, I decided I couldn't let Sarah get away with what she had done so easily. I sent the video of the wriggling mealworm in the cheesecake to the bakery where Sarah worked. It wasn't long before she was called in by her boss for a serious conversation. Despite it being a private incident, using food in such a cruel prank was inexcusable for someone in her line of work. The gossip spread, and soon Sarah couldn't show her face at work anymore. Jack's mother later told us about it when we visited her. Emma, I heard what you did, and I think it was the right move. Sarah needed a wake-up call, and this might be the only way she'll learn. I just couldn't let it slide, not after everything that had happened. As we were talking, we heard a knock at the door. It was Sarah, back again with nowhere else to turn. Mom, I lost my job. I don't have anywhere else to go. Can I stay here for a while? Sarah, you've caused too much damage. I can't let you stay here anymore. You need to figure out your life on your own now. I'm sorry, but this is for your own good. You can't be serious. You're really going to throw me out? Yes, I am. This is the consequence of your actions. You need to take responsibility. Sarah began to cry, sitting down on the ground as if refusing to leave. Please don't do this. I don't have anywhere else to go. I'm sorry, Sarah, but this is for the best. You need to stand on your own 2 feet. Sarah wailed loudly, but her mother didn't budge. Watching from the doorway, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of pity and frustration. Sarah, you brought this on yourself. It's time to face the consequences of your actions. You're the reason I lost my job. You sent that picture to my workplace? How could you do that to me? After everything you did,
You really have the nerve to call that a prank? You deserve every consequence coming your way. Sarah glared at me with hatred in her eyes, still unable to see her own fault in the situation. This is all your own doing. You can't blame anyone else for what's happening to you now. Even Jack, who had always been gentle with Sarah, looked at her with disappointment. Sarah, you hurt Emma. You hurt me. And now you're facing the result of your choices. It's time to grow up. How could you both turn on me like this? I'm your sister. You're my sister, but that doesn't excuse what you've done. Sarah continued to cry, but nobody in the room showed any sympathy. Eventually, she stood up, realizing that no one was going to take her side this time. Fine, I'll leave, but you'll regret this. Sarah, please don't come back until you've truly changed. With that, Sarah stormed out, leaving for what I hoped would be the last time. The following weeks were quiet, but we had heard through the grapevine that Sarah had been struggling. She had no job, no stable place to live, and her reputation in the industry was ruined after the incident. Still, I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her. Jack and I had moved on, focusing on building our life together. Our marriage was strong, and we had even gotten back the dining table we had chosen together. On top of that, I recently found out that I'm pregnant with our first child. It's a new chapter in our lives, and I couldn't be happier. Jack's mother is thrilled about becoming a grandmother, and the thought of growing our family fills me with joy. Looking ahead, I feel nothing but gratitude for the life Jack and I are creating together.